Thank you so much, Meg, and everyone with Power to Fly, and good evening, everyone else here in the audience. I'm just super excited to chat with you all. I am Christine Job. I am an American living here in Spain, and I'm a business strategist. I'm also the podcast host and creator of an award-winning show I'm very proud of called Flourish in the Foreign, which is all about elevating and just amplifying the voices and stories of Black women living and thriving abroad while exploring living abroad as a pathway to wellness. I mean, actually, my journey here to Spain is very crazy and interesting, but I'll keep that short and maybe for another time. Basically, I studied law school. I studied law and I graduated from law school. I joined a startup in downtown Miami. I enjoyed that life. I started my own consultancy in business development in Atlanta. I got burnt out at a time, I might add, when burnout was not a buzzword like it is now. Um, so I didn't really know what was going on with me. And I decided to do so many things. I took an adventure to the Camino Santiago and ended up here in Spain for a sabbatical that has lasted for 6 years. And it has been an amazing journey of me learning how to reframe my life, but particularly my professional life, how I can be satisfied and very fulfilled professionally while also nurturing myself and not teetering back into burnout. But that is a little bit about me.
I mean, you're right. We could probably have multiple hours long discussions on any single segment of that. As somebody who barely survived the first year of law school, congratulations to you. So good for you. Let's kind of talk about what led to this, right? So obviously you had a lot of kind of defining moments that moved you in this direction. But let's talk about what your experiences were like that led you into this philosophy, like that you needed to make this giant shift for your own well-being, and your own sustainability, in addition to your professional sustainability.
Yeah, I mean, I've had so many different transformative moments. In hindsight, when it's happening, you're just like, what does this mean? I don't know. But in hindsight, you're like, oh, yes, these were all little like breadcrumbs to this type of
Right, that was the
philosophy.
start of this
Uh,
era, and you're like, yeah, but you can't see that at the time.
Exactly. So to your point, I think it probably actually started in law school, which is such a magical place. It attracts so many interesting, diverse people for all different ages, different majors, different life experiences. And yet it's a process that teaches you how to think, which is great. But also, at least when I was in law school, it really hammers you into conformity. And it's really sad. And I found myself starting to really just rebuff that kind of constriction that I was feeling. It then led to going into startup and just that innate kind of American grind of just go, 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 kill it, kill it, kill it. And it's like, why is everything so violent? Like, why can't it just be
Yeah, you have
like
to crush it, you have to kill it, you have to, like, yeah, it's always this very like aggressive, like yes. Ugh.
yeah, yes. And so, but because that is the status quo, it's hard to really question it. Instead of questioning the ecosystem, instead of questioning the environment, I questioned myself. I thought, why am I so crazy? Like, why is this not feeling right for me? And then perhaps like some of the audience members might relate to, and perhaps you yourself, Meg, at the time, burnout, as I said before, wasn't a buzzword. And I'm Black American, I'm Caribbean. And in those cultures, I don't think burnout probably still is a thing, at least in the older generations. And so, even with my family, I didn't have a kind of a warning signal. They were all loving and supportive of me. And so when I was like, I'm not sure, this feels crazy, they were like, you can do it, push through. And so I say that because I got to a point where I felt like I was losing my mind. Like I just felt I don't understand. I did everything I was supposed to do, but I'm feeling just so uncomfortable in this way of moving and being. And it made me really question, like, am I not smart enough? Am I not tough enough? And so what was interesting is that I think a year after I graduated from law school, I found myself walking the Camino de Santiago, which is a very funny story how it happened. But I was walking the Camino de Santiago, which is a 800-kilometer pilgrimage across Spain. Short, I'll try to keep it brief. One, I was not an outdoorsy person. This was really a calling from, I don't know, some type of higher power to go and do it. And something that has always stuck with me from that walk was that, just saying here in Spain, paso a paso, step by step. So you're walking towards, the terminus of the pilgrimage, but it's 800 kilometers. No one day are you going to hit it, right? You're never going to, you can't walk fast enough, hard enough to get there. And that walk, that moment in time for me really settled me into this discomfort of being okay with a journey that didn't look like someone else's. I was 27 at the time, and there were, older Scandinavians and Germans like walking past me. And I was just like, what? Can I not? But it taught me to walk my own journey, because if I didn't, I'm going to pull something, I'm going to hurt myself. And what is that? What's the point? Is the point to walk and to end up at my destination? That was really important for me, because at that moment, when I finished that, I realized there were so many different ways to live life. I was walking across this, Spain. So I was like, oh, there's different ways to do this life. But I really took it to heart, because I knew that once I accomplished that, I could do anything. I did feel quite confident after that, but I could do it in a way that felt good for me. And I was committed for that. And I was really curious to know that there are so many different cultures around the world. There's so many different work cultures. There's so many different ways to make money and be successful, that I knew that I could find something that fit well with me, that felt good. And I was curious to really explore that. So fast forward to me moving to Spain eventually, and going back into business for myself, I recognized that I had gone through a lot. I had immigrated. I had, produced a podcast. I did a lot of things. And I recognized that I didn't have to kill myself. I didn't have to be aggressive or be competitive with people in order to win and to feel successful, to feel professionally fulfilled, to be financially abundant. In fact, I found that by going my own way, which is more collaborative, that this was the way for me to live a soft life, right? So that's how I started developing those type of principles. I didn't really hit on the name soft life until, after watching TikTok, and I was like, oh, okay. With TikTok hashtag soft life, seeing, amazing, young women who are just like, I bought myself Starbucks. I did that, which I love. I love some dewy golden hour lighting. Great. Love it, sis. Do that. But what I also recognized was that, hey, to take this concept of soft life from aesthetic to embodiment is actually, that's where the transformation is. That's where the juice is. And so I took all my experiences that I've had in life and in building business and podcasting and working with entrepreneurs. I took this concept that was just so much fun for me. And I said, this is soft life. And soft life is not about, just laying about all the time. And people are like, oh, you live in Spain, so you just drink wine all the time. And I'm like, no, I don't. It's about developing a vision of a life well lived for yourself, a professional life well lived, right? A professional life well served. It's about having that vision, setting that intention to fulfill that vision. And then, some of the cliche things that you hear all the time, setting boundaries, saying no. But actually, now you have a foundation, you have a vision, you have a scope of work, if you will, to say no to all the things that do not fit that. right? And then you can make moves towards empowerment and career development that fit that vision. And I think what also is fascinating with this concept of soft life is that it is individual to yourself. So it behooves you to get to know who you are personally and professionally, not who everyone thinks that you should be. You should go for the director level. You should do that. If that's not what a professional life served and fulfilled is for you, then that doesn't need to be what your soft life is, right? I think most importantly, which I think surprised people, is that soft life is really about accountability, personal accountability. It's about really being honest with who you are, what you want, and being okay with it not looking like everyone else's. I told someone recently, if I still had the vision of a life well lived for myself, because I'm from Atlanta, I would be aspiring to have, I don't know, a Cadillac Escalade. I live in Valencia, Spain. What am I doing with that?
Yes.
It's really about being honest with yourself and being accountable to yourself.
Well, which makes a ton of sense. And that's why, it reminds me a ton of the work that I've done for me, for my mental health journey. I am not kind to myself generally, and kind of having to focus on that made me scared. I didn't want to think about it because I didn't want to sit there and think about like, oh, all of these not necessarily mean things that I've done to myself, but like standards that I've forced myself to meet because that was what you had to do, right? And so what we are really talking about is not just it's not just creating boundaries and prioritizing yourself, right? It's having accountability to yourself about the things that you actually need. And this is a hard conversation to have if you are living and operating from a place of fear instead of abundance, which I know sounds incredibly woo woo. Apologies, I've had a lot of therapy this month. But
I
like,
love it.
but it really, like, it comes down to deciding that you are actually worth what you need to function at your best self, right? For me, this looks like today I've been on and up since 4 o'clock this morning. So when this all concludes in 20 minutes, I'm going to take a 3 hour nap. Now I'm going to feel really, really weird about it because it's the middle of the workday. My husband is still at work. He's working his 9 to 5, but this is what I need to be able to bring this to this event, right? So I think you're right. People get uncomfortable with this because it's having to be accountable to yourself, not just in survival mode, right? You're trying to create your best life for yourself, not okay, I can do this for another couple months and then we'll reassess because the wheels are going to fall off.
Exactly. And when we think about career sustainability and longevity, it's not about maybe staying at with an organization for the rest of your professional life. It's really about taking care of yourself professionally, which I mean, obviously, financially, we want to make sure that is taken care of, but also to think about each one of us have this amazing gift. And I will get woo woo. We do. We all have this amazing gift. We have an education, we have expertise, we have from our very diverse backgrounds, different ways of seeing and moving in the world that we actually give in our service, our professional service. And so it really behooves us to think about being professionally fulfilled and sustainable and have longevity so that we can be of service, which I think is a
Mhm.
different reframe. I think when people hear career sustainability and longevity, it's like how can I fortify myself to keep on doing this for 5 more years or 20 more years until I get to retire? That's not what soft life principles and that's not what career sustainability or longevity means to me. It's not about how much crap you can endure. It's not about how long you can be uncomfortable. It's not about how long you can not be yourself because you feel like you can't be yourself in a professional setting or whatever professional setting. It's about how can I give of myself in a way that does not deplete me. So
Yeah.
that's a different reframe that requires accountability. That's an assessment of, company culture, how I handle conflict, how I, want to express and to serve. Am I in alignment with what I need to be nourished? And I think sometimes people think, when we think about self-care, like personal life, professional life, no intermingle. But okay, I'm not saying, I don't know, bring your favorite satin fuzzy pajamas to work. It's not about that type of thing. But I think it does us a disservice to not be real with ourselves. If we spend 70% of our lives or 80% of our waking hours in a year in our professional pursuits, it needs to be quite in alignment with also our personal pursuits. It has to be in alignment with our well-being. And well-being is not woo-woo. Well-being is about our physical sustainability. Can we physically do this? It's our mental and our emotional. And I think that sometimes when we talk about self-care, and definitely if I ever say soft life, people are like, okay, girl, you live in Spain, you're an entrepreneur, okay, girl.
Yeah.
But it's so much deeper than that. It's about, are you nourished in this environment so that you can give the most that you can, or as pure or as delightful that you can, serve in this environment? Are you being refueled also? And I think if you've experienced a situation in which you were delighted and dazzled to be in a work culture with your coworkers and on the projects that made you feel alive, that stimulated you intellectually, and that you felt like, I'm really making a difference on this project. You know the difference between that and something that feels like your soul's being drained out of your body and it's only 9:30 in the morning.
Yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
it's so much more than just, the woo woo or things like. It's really about that sustainability, that longevity. And we all owe it to ourselves to be real with ourselves
Yeah.
about what is it that we need and we require, and also be real with ourselves about how we might have been interfering with that, either with beliefs and mindsets or with habits. There's lifestyle creep and all these other things that get caught up that keep us in a situation that may not be nourishing, but then we feel that we can't make a move out of.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to keep my eyes on the chat as well. Mary is absolutely doing the Lord's work here, just like killing it with these amazing sidebars. Mary says, I think we just think that we need to survive all the time, especially women and working. What about health? What about enjoyment? What about not always working? And she said, when you grow up Black, it's like grind, grind, grind all day, every day. Obviously, I do not know this. This is not my lived experience, but it is absolutely something I have heard a lot from very smart Black women that I get a chance to listen to. Um, what do you think? Let's talk about the intersectionality here. You are trying to empower Black women and women of color. That's obviously very, very central and very much of a focus. How do you envision the future of DEI, especially within the guise of entrepreneurship? What can people do to help contribute to what you want to see?
I think a really big change that I want to see is actually the merging, especially for Black women, women of color, marginalized groups, is to lean into an entrepreneurial mindset and bring that and leverage their lived experiences through that type of mindset. I think that the way that I've seen some, DEI initiatives be executed is just like, you're here. So therefore, you've enhanced our experience. But oftentimes these are corporate structures that enjoy the status quo. They just do. And so I think a way for marginalized groups, Black women, to leverage their experience is to come at it not only perhaps subconsciously, but consciously and explicitly in meetings, and be assertive and say, I'm a disruptor. I'm an innovator. Maybe an innovator is probably better for corporate landscape, but I'm an innovator. I'm taking my lived experience, I'm taking my work experience, I'm taking my education, I'm leveraging that, and I'm looking at this situation with these very unique set of eyes. And I'm pointing out the holes, the places where we can grow, but I'm doing that because I know that this organization has the ability to have that type of growth. I think that type of reframing will probably be more palatable because a lot of people feel like, yes, we enjoy diverse voices, but they don't. They don't really. I don't. And so I think instead of trying to conform to that status quo and try to change it within the confines that people have put out there, I think stating, hey, I'm an innovator. I'm coming in here with an entrepreneurial mindset. I'm coming in here trying to not just put out fires for today or this month. I'm a visionary. I'm seeing things that you haven't even thought of. And to reframe it that way, because I think if you kind of throw entrepreneurial buzzwords at people who usually don't always understand the buzzwords, but they're very excited to use them, that at least will give you some leverage in actually implementing your point of view and really demonstrating your gifts and your unique talents. I'm a big believer in shaking it up. I'm a big believer in saying, you know what? I'm different. And it's okay, everyone. You don't have to whisper. I'm different than everyone that's here, and that's okay. But what I'm going to bring to you is I'm bringing to you innovation. I'm bringing to you a new set of eyes. I'm bringing to you vision. We're not talking about this, firefighting. We're talking about where does this organization, this department, this project want to be, not only in 2 years, but the legacy and how can we get there? And let me actually give you my thoughts on it. That's really important because I just don't believe in trying to make these, entrenched rules fit for me. They
Mhm.
weren't written for me. They weren't written for me to ever join them. So why would I try to play within those that confines? That's why entrepreneurship and definitely having that type of mindset, that type of swagger, I would say. I'm from Atlanta, so I'm going to say that
Yes.
is so important. It's that confidence. It's, yeah, I know that this is something that you haven't done before. I know something that you haven't seen before. I know that no one else has done it before, but that's what's so great. We're innovative, we're on the cutting edge. And I'm going to
Mhm.
bring this whole perspective that you may not have thought about because we have different lived experiences.
Yeah. I mean, as you were saying that, literally all I could hear was say it louder. We're not whispering this, right? Like you want to say like, okay, yeah, I don't look like anybody else in the room, or I don't come from a background like anybody else that's been in this room. But that's what got you where you are is the same. So let's talk about the new, the different. I think that's wonderful. And I very much appreciate the ownership of it, right? Like it's very easy to say like, oh, I'm sorry, I actually really need you to do this differently for me, and I'm so sorry, blah blah blah. Like it's really easy to take that road into it. It is quite another thing, and the feeling is completely different afterwards when you're like, hey, this is what I need. End of sentence. Because that's okay.
Yes,
Because the rest of everybody else got to say, hey, this is what we need, and they wrote the rules, and this is how it was. But if that's not working, then you need to talk about how it's not working, right? Because squeaky wheels get the
absolutely.
grease. All right.
Exactly.
Last 5 minutes we've got. Okay. One of the things that I wanted to make sure we talked about was the kind of immediate impact, right? That people might want to make in their career if they want to try and implement soft life principles. What should they think of? What's one specific principle that they can try and get behind or utilize to try and see somewhat of a shift in their own lives?
Oh my gosh, it's hard to pick one. Let me give you two and I'll be quick about it. One is radical honesty. We have to be honest with ourselves. We have to be honest about who we are, what's working, and what's not working. When we think about our professional life, I think it's really important to perhaps create different sectors, get a piece of paper out and put different aspects of your professional life that might be working for you. So maybe financially, maybe creatively, maybe and development, maybe leadership, whatever is important to you, and think about what is currently working for me. The things that make me say, yeah, I love that. Write that down. The things that are not working for me, write that down. Then go back through all the lists of things that are working for you and do another list. And this time, do a list about the things that are working for me. How much of that is environmental and how much of that is internal? Meaning, that's all me. Like, that's me. And I think what that would do for you, and also do it for the things that are not working, which is environmental. What is me? I need to work on
Mhm.
that. I think that is so important because that gives you a very clear landscape of what is going on with your professional life right now. We're not hiding, we're not thinking about things. Write it down on a piece of paper. We're not like, it's not an intellectual kind of exercise, nebulous. What is actually working for me? That's really important, to have that radical honesty so that you can move on, so that you can actually say, well, is this satisfying for me? Is this fulfilling? And what areas is the environment that is satisfying or dissatisfying? And what areas it is me that might be the weapon formed against myself? Like,
No,
and
this is a
take
good one.
ownership of that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, there's a lot of things
Um,
that we can control and we can change. There's also a lot of things that we can't. So yeah, I love this. If you know yourself, it ceases to be a weapon that other people can use against you, right? Because you know who you are. And so nobody's gonna be able to surprise you and be like, ha ha. You're like, yeah, I know that. I'm aware. Welcome to the conversation.
right? And so that's the first thing I would do, is that radical honesty. And then from that exercise, really allow yourself to dream large about what is a vision of a life well lived and a professional life well served look like for you. Really dream about that. Write that down. Things that you're like, this couldn't possibly, write it down, because no one else is reading it. It's just you. There's no need to self edit. Allow yourself to get it all out. Once you do that, you actually have a game plan as to how you're going to implement other aspects of a soft life and in your professional arena. Because once you know where you're at and you have some accountability, it's pretty and it's ugly. It's like, yay, that is me, and that is me. Great. And then you also have that dream. And the dream, I think sometimes we discount our dreams because we're like, oh, well, it's too airy fairy. It doesn't matter. But write that down. Once you have that, then creating boundaries over what is not in alignment with this dream becomes easier because you can see it. When you're thinking about self care and prioritization of that, it becomes easier to see what is in alignment and what's not. When we're thinking about what's the next step for me professionally, it becomes easier to see what is in alignment with what I say that I want and I desire, and what is just not. And at least if you have, some ambivalence and you're unsure, you have something tangible to seek out with a mentor, a friend, a partner, a spouse. And it's not just thoughts and feelings, it's something tangible. But as I said before, soft life principles is really about honesty and accountability.
Love this. I absolutely love this. I could talk to you about this forever, Christine. Thank you so, so much for coming on here, chatting with us, sharing more about your journey. I really, really hope we get to do this again soon.
Me too. Thanks so much, Meg. I really appreciate it.